Hey, good day to you all. It's Sam here. We are, let's see, we're Friday, December 15th. And I had a request from a new member to take a look at waves, and this is a coin we haven't looked at before, so I thought it was a good opportunity to bring it up. It's an interesting story. I mean, it's really a major crypto. So if you going over to CoinGecko, the reference that I always encourage people to consider looking for a score here of 50 or higher, you can see Waves is at 65. They've got a market cap of 1.3 plus billion. So this is a major crypto. It's a little over a year old. I would encourage you to read a little bit about it. It would probably be very appealing to traders. We look over here and see where's the volume, where is it trading, and you see the majority of it, of course, is predominantly in Bitcoin. But Bittrex serves it up. That's where the bulk of the volume is, so at least currently. So I thought we'd take a look at it and see if there was anything to learn here, maybe some opportunities. So this is the daily Waves to Bitcoin on Bittrex. So this is their start date with it. So you can see here, like most of the alts, as Bitcoin has ripped of late, we've seen the big sell-off. So we had the pump, and then, as many will tell you, it's the pump and the dump. Well, as we look now here, is potentially we could be basing here. There's the potential for this to be starting a new trend. It's a little sloppy here on the daily. It doesn't look great, but let's start as we always would with any chart, regardless of the underlying asset. Just let's see, is it trading technically? So just looking at the move down here, you can see likely algos are in. Here's their footprint. Here they sell, they front run the 50 and take it to the negative 23. So that's a good sign in that it tells us that algos are in, and we can try and work around them. Given that they've taken profit here and now we're trying to start a new trend, we can look at this and say, well, if you just look at this right off the bat, just from an LA perspective, that looks like a three wave. So I would want to be cautious of if I take this pivot to this pivot here. So here again at the 50, if that's not going to get impulsive, or at least a five wave structure right now, best case would be a diagonal. If we're not going to get a diagonal and push this out in a five-wave sequence to start a new trend, well, we've got this target down here, which is substantially lower. That would be going back to almost its start date. So for bulls, let's hope that that's not the case, but we can't eliminate that. So here this it'll have to get through this on the way up. So here's the next level of resistance it's got to get through. Then we'd have to pull back a pivot and look here again, and pretty much all the way up. That's going to be fighting resistance at these significant levels to get a new trend started. But we can work from it structurally. We want to be mindful of those being there. So right now, looking at this, it looks like we have an A and a B and a C. But let's not assume that there isn't upside opportunity here. So let's go to the 4 hour, have a look at it. So it's a little sloppy, but this spike down here with the move in Bitcoin last night, that turned a lot of potential impulse waves into diagonals. So if we just measure it out, so we can see this good looking five wave sequence there, which potentially was the one wave, but then we get this very choppy with a spike down here. So you'd have to call this an A, a B, and then 1, 2, 3. So we'd have an ending diagonal here. So you could still play this as a 1 deep 2, and now we're trying to get a 3 in here. Whether or not that this is 1, 2, we'll measure it out and see if it makes sense. So this is not ideal, right? This is not so right away. There are better looking charts than this, but if we consider that we have the potential for this to be a 2. We start measuring now, so we'd look for the relationship here. If this plays as a 1, 2, well, we've at least gone 100% of the 1. So we've hit the negative 23. So we can at least currently qualify that as a third. Then we come for a deep fourth, and we don't know that fourth is complete, but it's moved off it pretty sharply. So that this potentially plays as somewhat of an ugly diagonal, but it's technically valid. We don't invalidate this count. So perhaps this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'd be looking for, in this case, this would be you know, this potentially this could be turned into a 1. This right now stays as a 3. This, you know, is a if you look at the length of time, right? So here's the immediate problem. So look at the length of time if we're going to call this a 2 relative to the 4. So it's just too short. The proportion is not good. So, you know, I don't think I wouldn't necessarily be allocating capital here until I see better structure. But for bulls that wanted to try and get a piece of this because you like the story and you were looking for some technical guidance as to where we might be headed, well, you know, I mean, so I think this would look better here. Now I'm on a 4-hour if we had something like this. So if we came back down for an ABC and we got that 3-wave structure to suggest that we were correcting this move here. So something like this. And again, we've seen a lot of this, a lot of these shallow C's creating this triangle pattern. But you know, back down here, I would maybe like that a little bit better if I had better proportion. So you know, again, just there's a proportion that you want to look for. So if you look at the size of that 2-wave relative to, you know, if this was my fourth here, it just lacks proportion. So at least if we could get it over here, then we'd have perhaps a little bit better market structure and a little better symmetry outside of this spike here. So, you know, there's a lot here that needs to be seen before I would get overly enthusiastic about it, at least technically. Now, you know, a lot of people like the story here, but as a technician, you know, I looking at this, and I'm looking at it for a member. For me, as a technician looking at this, I'd keep moving. I would next chart. It's just not good enough here, and there's too many other setups that have better structure. But you know, if you're looking to get bullish, so one possibility here is that this will get relabeled, and we'll take this way up here. And then we'll end up with this as a 1-2. So for bulls, that's your best case scenario, that you would be looking for this as a 1-2. Now even here we're a little sloppy. We push through the 6-5, but we know that a wave 2 can go deeper. So the best case scenario for a bull would be that this ends up getting relabeled as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'd go up there. I'll just put it in a different color so we can distinguish it. So if that's the case, then this would need to go up a degree. So we'd go to that there. So, you know, that's possible. That's possible. Then the potential structure here and the symmetry of this plays a bit better rather than this as 1, 2, 3, 4. That doesn't look right. So that potentially is your 1, 2. So if that's your 1, 2, well then we can measure this. So if I were trying to build the bullish case, this is how I would do it. So if that's my 2-wave, well, I know I've got to get at least 100% up here. So 3 has to at least get there. So we need to get beyond the algo target, which right here. So to qualify it as a third, we got to get there. So better yet, you know, for mega bulls, here's what you're really looking for to get it as a third. So there's your high probability zone for the third wave relative to this 1, 2. But then that lays out much better for potentially the third being up here. So now look at the 1, 2, 3. That plays much better. And then it gets more interesting. But we're hypothesizing here. We don't know yet. First we got to get to this 3. Then we got to see, you know, what happens in the 4. If this is going to be a 1, 2, and this is the 1, 2 of the third, it needs to stay impulsive, meaning it needs to stay above that wave 1 high. So this third needs to get some legs. We need to get far enough away from that pivot so that a retracement, you know, even a 38.2 would stay above the wave 1 high. So if I look at that and, you know, just again hypothesizing, if this is my 2 and I were to get a 3 up here, well, here's my 50 in my wave 1. So that potentially, you know, that could play. But right now, you know, if you're buying it here, it's because you like the story rather than the pretty technicals. But that's certainly, see, you're a little late now if you're looking for the buy there. You know, and this is me just doing. See, it's already starting to move. So this would take you, you know, having been, you'd have need to been watching this morning, seen that reaction up the 6.5, even though we went a couple of ticks through it. So here the problem now, if you're buying it here, that, you know, here's your target, and here, your stop's down here below the 65. So you're not even 3 to 1. You know, if you love the story and you want to be there, and you're saying, oh, I think we're going up to the likely target here, to my 1618, it gets a little better. but there's 3-to-1. But you're playing best case scenario. Now the other potential here, since I'm on a 4-hour, is that we get a little pullback here, and then you might be able to buy it lower here. If we get a little 1-2 within the third of the third, then you could keep that stop below that 65. That plays a little better, but now you're looking. You need to see this. So we need to get a little pullback here like that. Then you could take that with better risk reward. Right now it's too far to the stop. Right. So that potentially plays. I like that potential. You've already made the move from the corner to the median line, so now you have to understand the possibility is there that we come back down and check the lower parallel. So you got a couple alternatives there. So I would say it's one to watch. If you like the story, then I'd be looking for a little bit more of a pullback for an entry. You certainly have good upside. Certainly good upside is there if it's going to play ball, if we're going to stay impulsive here. But I'd certainly be paying attention to this one, and then ultimately I'd be paying attention to this one as well, so we get a sense of the structure. So we don't invalidate the count, because now if we're in a 1-2, we need an impulse wave to take us out of here. All right, so that's I'll keep this relatively short today, but one to watch. Definitely one to watch. Okay, guys, I'll wrap it there.